Hi guys, today we are going to learn how to send an email through SendGrid using Python. To do this, we need to have a SendGrid account and an API key which we will use in our Python code. I already have a SendGrid account and an API key. To view our API keys, click on Settings, then click API keys. Here you will be able to see all the API keys that you have generated. You can view your API key only at the time of generation, then you have to note it down somewhere else. Before starting our coding, let's create a config file where you can have your settings. Here I have already created a config.ini file inside the folder. This config.ini file has SendGrid API key from mail address. This mail ID should be the one that you have configured in the SendGrid. And the last one is to mail address. List of all mail address that should receive the mail, separated by commas. Let's start our coding by creating a Python file sendmail.py. Now we need to integrate the SendGrid SDK. So now we will click the email API and then click integration guide. In the setup method, choose the web API. Here you will see the list of languages in which the SDKs are available. We will be choosing Python here. Let's install the SendGrid package. Open the terminal. Now enter the command sudo pip3 install SendGrid. Now we have installed the package successfully. We already have the API key and other related info in the config.ini file. So we need Python to read it from the file, and for that we will be using a package called configparser. Let's install configparser by entering the command sudo pip3 install configparser. In the integration guide, there is a piece of code that explains how to send an email. Before integrating that, we will read the config.ini file and make all the variables ready. Let's load the configparser package. Import configparser. Config equal to configparser dot configparser. Now that configparser is initialized, let's read the file. Config.read config.ini. Now let's read all the variables declared in config.ini. There can be many categories in the ini file, which are separated by headers. Using configparser, we can fetch a particular category. In our case, we have only one category called settings. Configparser will return this in object format. We have 3 items under settings. Now we will fetch all the 3. API equal to settings dot get API key. If there is no such variable, then it should return none. The same goes for from email. In two emails, if there is no variable, we need to return an empty string. Let's declare subject and message variables. For message, let's declare the variable as HTML underscore content. Now let's create a function to send mail. Def send mail using SendGrid. There will be 5 arguments here: API key, from email, to emails, subject, and HTML content, which is message. To this function, you can add a validation based on your requirement. Here I am just putting a condition that the API key and from email should not be none and to email should be greater than 0. I am just copying the module libraries from the integration guide. Since I have already installed the SendGrid module, so by default all these library packages should be available within the SendGrid module. From SendGrid, import SendGrid API client. From SendGrid.helpers.mail import mail. Now using the mail function which we imported through the SendGrid, let's pass the 4 required arguments from email, to email, subject and the HTML content to the mail function. Now let's copy the code from the guide and paste it here. Instead of getting the API from the environment, let's replace it with a variable which we have already loaded from the config.ini file. Now I will go to the inbox page and keep it ready so that I will know if I received any mail. Let's open the terminal and run the Python file sendmail.py. There is an error message. Okay, there is a spelling mistake in configparser. Let's fix it and run it again. No response. Okay, sorry, I did not call the function sendmail using SendGrid. Let's call the function and pass all the required arguments at the end of the code, and we will try again. Still no response. But we have mentioned in the code to print even in case of success or error. Let's check what the issue is. First, we will check whether we are reading successfully from the config file. Let's print the API and check. Now if you see, API is returned as none. That means there is some issue in reading the file. Let's check and fix it. Okay, there is a spelling mistake in settings. Let's fix it and run it again. Now we are getting a different error. Let's remove the API key print. If you see, the issue is SSL certification verification failed. This is because SendGrid API runs on HTTPS and we are just running out Python script, so which is not on HTTPS. So to solve this, we will import SSL. Now we will assign an unverified context as the default HTTPS context here. SSL dot underscore create underscore default underscore HTTPS underscore context equal to SSL dot underscore create underscore unverified context. Now let's run again. Finally, we got a successful response. Now let's check the mail. We have received the message. Let's open it. If you see the message, you can see whatever we have mentioned in the HTML content has appeared here. Now we can change the subject and message and run the script again. Let's change the subject as check again and the message be message successfully sent again through Python SendGrid. Let's run it. As you see, I have received the mail again. Let's open it. Yes, now we have received the subject and message with the updated one. That's it guys. Now you know how to send an email through SendGrid using Python.